Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Assembly Judiciary. Welcome to those here in Carson City, as well as anyone there in Las Vegas, and of course, anyone watching online through Nellis or YouTube. Committee Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Assembly members Cole. Here. Dahlia. Here. Gonzalez. Here. Gray. Here. Hanson. Here. Hardy. Here. LaRue Hatch. Marzola.
Present.
Moore. Nadim. Orentlicker. Here. Roth. Here. Urick. Here. And Chair Miller.
Please mark the other members present when they arrive. All right, and with that, just a few reminders, asking everyone to turn off the volume on their electronics. Also reminding folks that today's agenda is posted on Nellis, and on Nellis you will see the member ID for the call-in today if you choose to testify or make public comment on the phone. The phone number is 888-475-4499, and the member ID for today is 897-4182-2801. With that, for today's agenda, there is one bill that's being removed from the agenda. That's Assembly Bill 312. So we will just have the two bills today on the agenda. Just a reminder to presenters that I ask that you keep your presentations to 15 minutes each. Anyone testifying on a bill or making public comment, please keep your comments to 2 minutes each. Also, anyone speaking at all today, please make sure you state your name, you introduce your presenters, and of course, the first time you speak, you spell your name so we have it correct for the record. And with that, we will go ahead and open up the hearing for Assembly Bill 321. And so, Assemblyman, once you get in and settled, go ahead and introduce yourself and you may proceed.
Good morning, everyone. Jovan Jackson for the record. I know I'm supposed to have some co-presenters. Maybe they're running a little late, but I will walk us through this bill the best way I can.
1 minute recess.
Jovan Jackson for the record. I'm presenting AB 321. There were a lot of major amendments on this bill. The bill more focused around wildlife firefighters, inmates transitioning from, doing wildlife firefighters from incarceration to when they're released to be eligible for that position by law. Assemblymember Gonzalez has been added as a primary sponsor onto this bill. This amendment removes sections 1, 2, 3, and 6 from the original bill and keeps section 4 and 5, with section 4 updated for clarity. The goal is to allow formerly incarcerated wildlife firefighters to apply for jobs with Nevada Division of Forestry, and made better known as NDF, after they are released. Why does this matter? It addresses Nevada's shortages of NDF firefighters. It reduces recidivism by offering viable employment and rehabilitation. It provides a solution to Nevada's wildlife and keeps communities safe from fires. Who is eligible? Only individuals who've actively served as wildlife firefighters while incarcerated will be considered for these NDF jobs by law. And it's specific to Nevada because Nevada has their own eligibility for inmates who serve as wildlife firefighters. So this only applies for inmates who served in Nevada. And so this bill touches on the EMT certification. So we hope to see more positions that do not require, more firefighter positions that do not require EMT certification. This will make it more easier for inmates who have served as wildlife firefighters to obtain a job as a free person. I understand there may be questions about which type of inmates are eligible to be wildlife firefighters. I will request that information from the Department of Corrections. But I would briefly say that these work camps are not barbed wire facilities. There's no gun towers. These individuals could literally walk off the camp if they want to. These are some of our most trusted inmates. They work in the community. They work with people in the community directly. You would never know that they are an inmate while they're doing that work. So I just want to clarify what type of inmates will be eligible to be hired as a wildlife firefighter.
Assemblymember, could you, before we continue, could you first explain what the Wildlife Firefighter Program is?
Yes, Jovan Jackson for the record. So the Wildlife Firefighter program in Nevada Department of Correction is a work program for inmates. So you have to be, a certain level of, certain category of inmate to qualify. You have to be a certain amount of years away from violence. There's a lot of requirements to be admitted into this work program. So once you're admitted into this work program or a work camp, you are able to, do different positions. And one position is working for the Nevada Division of Forestry. And so it goes beyond just firefighting. So the Nevada Division of Forestry, they do a lot of work for the community, whether it's on the side of the highways or in the neighborhoods or, directly in the city. These inmates may be responsible for cutting trees, maintaining fences, cleaning certain areas, and even working directly like on farms and private property. So the program is to allow individuals who want to work, who want to, have to be productive while they're in incarceration, and the program is allowed to have these individuals have a little more freedom and a little more options, during their incarceration. So ultimately, it is a work program. And in that work program, the Nevada Division of Forestry has an additional program where these individuals could actually be licensed, meet the qualifications and certifications of being a wildlife firefighter. And then, once they're activated during fire season. So when there's a fire, they go from regular NDF work to being, actual wildlife firefighters, and they go out and fight fires like any other wildlife firefighting crew.
Were there other aspects of the conceptual amendment or the bill that you wanted to address?
Jovan Jackson for the record. Nothing else that I want to address, but just to state that, that there shouldn't be more work opportunities for people incarcerated compared to when they're free. So I will conclude and give the rest of the presentation to my co-presenter, Mr. Griffin, and he will discuss more the impacts of NDF and that they're having. I know, and how this is an important bill.
Good morning. My name is Sean Griffin, ShaunGriffin. I'm the co-founder of the Nevada Prison Education Project and formerly the co-founder and director of Community Chess in Northern Nevada. For the past 30 plus years, I've been volunteering at Northern Nevada Correctional Center to teach a poetry workshop. I've had over 200 people in that workshop. Fewer than 5 have come back on a yard where the recidivism rate is around 60 to 70%. And there's a reason for that. It's the trust and the agency and the belief in their future that develops in the workshop and the relationships that get established. When you get out of prison, it's really difficult, period. Not just to get a job, to get a house, to get back in your community, to get a relationship going, to to do anything like that. And the reason these men have succeeded is that somebody in their orbit has cared enough to help them with that transition. Of those 200 plus stories, I can tell you things that would make your skin crawl when they've tried to go get a job. I've had men who were on fire crews go try to get a job. They can't, they're turned down. I've had men with degrees, both undergraduate and graduate, go try to get a job. They can't, they're turned down. It's because they have a star on their forehead and it's called felon. What this bill does is allow people who have training and expertise to go get work. If you send somebody outside with the expectation that they'll become participants in this society, but they're not allowed to work, it basically hamstrings them for the duration of their parole. And after that, you know what happens. People violate again and they're returned to prison. None of us want that. We all know that there's a better way. It costs about $50,000 a year to incarcerate a person. If a person's making that money, everybody wins. And more importantly, they go on to have a future. It's pretty straightforward. I completely support this bill. Everyone I know that's working on it does as well. I've been around this issue all of my adult life. It's proactive and positive. Thank you.
Jovan Jackson for the record. And I did speak to the director of NDF. They did, state to me that they do currently hire folks who have a background. So this will be more codified in law that, that this is something that will be allowed. And then also looking at more positions that doesn't require that certification. Thank you.
Thank you so much. First, could you define, did you say NDF?
No, Jovan Jackson for the record, Nevada Division of Forestry.
Of Forestry, okay. And so you said the Division of Forestry are hiring individuals who are formerly incarcerated.
Jovan Jackson for the record, yes.
Okay. And so I just want to get a fuller understanding of the program. We have people that are incarcerated that are fighting our wildfires. And I know last session we had bills to even increase the pay for them. But the challenge is that then upon release, they are not able to become a firefighter with one of the local municipalities. Okay. All right, I know there's a number of questions, so we will begin with Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. So just dovetailing off the chair's question, so just so that I'm correct, my understanding is that they currently hire folks. So are there specific crimes that bar people from getting hired, or why are some people getting hired and other people aren't? Thank you so much.
Jovan Jackson for the record. I wouldn't know that answer. Could I bring someone up to answer that question?
It's your bill hearing,
Jovan
Assemblyman.
Jackson for the record.
Yes.
Good morning, Chair, committee members. My name is Nick Shepak, Nickshepak, Nevada State Director for the Fines and Fees Justice Center and also on the Board of Return Strong. One of the major issues with hiring people post-incarceration into certain firefighting jobs is that different jobs require different certifications, and different certifications have different barriers based on felonies. So there is an issue. While some people will be able to seamlessly transfer from the Nevada Department of Corrections into something like firefighting, there may be like a bar on when I talk to the lobbyists from the different fire unions for, say, getting like an EMT certification. And if you can't get that EMT certification, you can't be a wildland firefighter. So the goal of this bill is to ensure that anyone who is trained as a firefighter in NDOC can access all of the required certifications to fight those fires, whether it be wildland or otherwise.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning. The premise of the bill is great. However, when you had mentioned the EMT certification, that sent some bells off in my head. EMTs are quite often placed in the close proximity of narcotics. If there's a paramedic or something like that, I have real concerns about that, especially if they've had a drug conviction or have had a known addiction. You plan on doing anything to mitigate that risk?
Jovan Jackson for the record. Thank you for your question, Assembly Member Gray. I will say that the current program with NDOC, with the wildlife firefighters, those firefighters do not have that certification, but they do have a crew boss that has that certification. To my knowledge, the crew boss is certified. So these inmate firefighters, they go out, they fight fires, they have a crew boss, and so if something does happen or something does occur, there is someone who is licensed and certified, to provide certain emergency services. And I will defer.
Nick Sheepek for the record. So, I think to quell your concern a little bit, the background check would still be there. These individuals, so when somebody is hired to, say, be a wildland firefighter, their bosses, everyone in charge would know if this individual had a history of drug use, and they would assign them accordingly. It wouldn't be a blanket, you get to go be an EMT. I also would say that anyone who has gone through the rehabilitation program, done multiple years in prison, would be held to the same standards as anyone on the street. And the majority of people who struggle with drug addiction actually do not have a record and have access to these certifications.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for answering our questions this morning. So this may be another phone a friend, because I see we have some folks from the Division of Forestry. So if you can't answer this, maybe they can. I'm just wondering, are all of our wildlife firefighter positions requiring this EMT certification? And will it be waived for the other folks that are not coming through this program? I just wonder if you could speak to those requirements.
Thank you for the question. For the record, Casey, it's K-A-C-E-Y, first name, last name, just K-C. State Forester Fire Warden for the Nevada Division of Forestry. The Nevada Division of Forestry does not have EMTs any longer. We had all risk before 2008. That went back to local government. So that is some of the hindrances when we talk wildland firefighters at a local government level. They often do have the requirement for EMT. At the Division of Forestry, we have nobody certified, so we wouldn't be able to provide any EMT certification for anybody. Our crew bosses are nationally qualified, as are our firefighters in the National Wildfire Coordinating Group. It's NWCG. There's lots of acronyms in fire. So those certifications, actually, we provide the same certification to inmate firefighters as we do to all of our paid firefighters. So when they leave incarceration, they have those certifications on file. We're able to hire because we do not have EMT. We don't carry the ability to prescribe or administer drugs. We don't have any of those abilities within our division. There is a barrier at local government. The barrier for hiring for us can be positive identification. If they leave the system without something like a driver's license, that is required of all positions in the state of Nevada, so that can be a barrier for hiring beyond that. But as the Assembly member said, Jackson, we actually are able and have hired straight off of our crews in the past.
Thank you. And could you, what has your experience been with those individuals?
Thank you for the question. Again, for the record, Casey. We've had mixed experiences. Some end up going back and into the system, and some don't. But we have had a lot of success in tree services, tree care industry, going into those types of jobs. We've had success on firefighting crews as well, both state and federal. The federal government has hired straight off of our crews before. It is they are palatable because they come with the same qualifications everybody else has. So we've had as good of success, I would say, as we do with every other human that we hire. So some of those come with challenges as well. We do have success with that. One of the things I think that we've been looking for there's a Phoenix crew that comes out of the state of Arizona. It's a two-step program with their Department of Corrections where they're still provided, it's kind of a halfway house, as they call them. They're provided a place to live. They're provided still the facility, or, the therapy and the counseling that is necessary to keep them out of whatever it was that brought them in. And then they are hired into the state of Arizona, onto this crew, and maybe given like a 5-year term where they then go past, getting tenured into the state, and that makes them then even further able to hire. And in fact, we had a applicant that we did try to hire in the state off of that Phoenix crew this year. Unfortunately, we weren't able to provide housing at the time. And so I think some of those are the limiting factors as well: affordable housing, ability to still get the treatment that they need beyond the life and tenure of their prison system. And so we would be very interested in working on a program like that.
Thank you so much. So just before I go back to member question, you said tree trimming is another occupation. Okay, we need to keep this focused on firefighting, but my brain later will go down that tree trimming rabbit hole. So our next question is from Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you for bringing this. I think this is really interesting and very important work. You had mentioned that there are other barriers and other certifications. I know we're removing the EMT, and that's specific to the Nevada Division of Forestry, but there are barriers at the local municipality, local government areas. So I'm just wondering, is there more that we can do to remove some of those barriers, or is there possibly an incentive program where you're giving private individuals, private companies that are in the same line of work, something extra for hiring folks that come out of this program?
Jovan Jackson, for the record. I think that's a great idea to give people incentives to work. Obviously, I'm not an expert on the subject, but yes, there is a barrier for local firefighters. If they do not have that certification, they cannot be firefighters or domestic firefighters. But which I have learned today, that barrier does not exist with Nevada Division of Forestry, but that is a real barrier that folks face, and and we all deserve the opportunity to rehabilitate and work in the community. So I think that's a great idea, and to look at ideas to help remove those barriers for local firefighters.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for this. I agree. Recidivism and how we address that is a topic I've always been very interested in, and how we, help people come out and move on with their lives and not end up back in the system. So I think this might have been answered, but I just want to clarify it. Would an individual, is there an opportunity to earn the EMT certification or other certifications while they're in this program? Are they I think someone said this division doesn't offer that, but is there, opportunities for them to earn other certifications other ways while they're in this program?
Jovan Jackson, for the record. So yes, they do become certified wildlife firefighters, which ultimately certifies them to do other things. I know we're not going to get into the other services that NDF do just for the bill hearing, but yes, that does certify them to use certain different devices and mechanisms, and I will defer the rest of my answer.
Nick Sheepback, for the record. The Nevada Department of Corrections does not have like an EMT certification program. They do have a variety of certification programs. They're mostly not through the department itself, but through partners with other parts of government, like the Department of Forestry and other things. So they can offer a variety. People come out with like safe serve certifications and other certifications, welding, right? Different things that help them get jobs. Currently, there's no like medical like certifications in the department though.
Sean Griffin, I'd like to add to that. The majority of the certifications that are provided inside are provided by the colleges that work in the prisons. That's Western Nevada, College of Southern Nevada, and Great Basin. They provide not only certificates, AAs, ASs, and BSs, and that's the group that we're working on to support right now. I think Assemblymember Chair Miller mentioned you need a license to get out. When you get out to start all this process, that's a real barrier. You don't get one when you get out. You have a prison ID, and that's all you have. And so going beyond that to find your birth certificate, to find out how to get it, et cetera, prevents you from doing anything. And that's a real barrier. And just in case you need a human face on all of this, I encourage you on your break to go downstairs to the lobby and read some of the poems from the workshop I've been teaching in, and it will bring this issue home in a big hurry. Those poems are by real people, and they're telling you what their lives are like. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Assemblymember Roth.
Thank you so much, and thank you for the presentation. Just want to make sure I'm fully understanding. We're basically looking at two types of firefighters. We have wildland firefighters and then local government firefighters. Is that correct?
This bill only focuses on wildland or wildlife firefighters.
I understand, but just in the state of Nevada.
Jovan Jackson, for the record. Yes, there's. I don't know if there's more than two, but there's definitely wildlife firefighters, and then what we consider more domestic firefighters that they fight, structures like buildings, homes, and then wildlife firefighters is more forestry and setting the boundaries between the communities and the forestry, like a fire line, ultimately.
Okay. May.
Yes, proceed.
Thank you. And this may actually be a question for the Division of Forestry. But can you speak a little bit to the experience and the similarity or differences between the wildlife firefighters and the domestic firefighters, or whatever the actual term for that is?
Thank you for the question. For the record, Casey, State Forester Fire Warden for the Division of Forestry. There are similarities and differences. So local government firefighters are all-risk firefighters. They are the ones who come when you call 911 for everything from your cat in the drain or in the tree to, you have fallen and you've got an owie, and wildland firefighter. So they have they're the ones that are hired through your taxes that actually are, have a response requirement within a certain time frame within your district. Wildland firefighters came out of the Great Fire of 1910. I could go on and on about the whole thing, but it's really how the Forest Service was developed. So they're really more on the forestry side of the house. They were foresters to begin with in the Forest Service, as they were in the backcountry, not really looking at structure fire. So when your house is on fire, your local government fire department is going to come. When it becomes a wildland fire, if it starts to spread from your home into the vegetation behind you, then our firefighters will engage. So we work very, very closely together. In fact, in Nevada, we have the Wildland Fire Protection Program, where we actually help support local government because we need them and they need us. So often we will help each other. They're often there on wildland fires. We are never there when your cat is in a gutter or your arm is injured, because we can't help you. And so that's kind of the difference. They have different certifications. But they may also have wildland certifications, and many of them do through NWCG. But they also have things like medical certifications, EMTs, all of those types of things. So we work very, very closely together, but their response on those things is different than ours. Does that, and one of the things I will say, to speak to the earlier point and not to get too far into the forestry side of our job, but why wildland firefighters live in land management agencies is because every day they are mitigating fires. So when they are not fighting fire, they're not sitting in a station waiting for the call, which is required of local government fire districts because of the time response. We are out every day preventing those fires from happening. So they're out in the communities, they're doing the work to mitigate the risk, burning piles, clearing brush, doing everything that they're doing every day in order to try to reduce that risk for those communities.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair. And my question will be for my person with the favorite name in the room, Casey. But first, I just wanted to say that I love what you're trying to do here in this bill, and I think it's just trying to work through some of the questions, some of the issues, and Mr. Griffin, thank you for what you do in the community at Care Chest. It does some great services along with a lot of other things you're doing. Having firsthand experience about, as an employer, being able to give those who've served their time an opportunity to come back into the community and get a job. And we've had some really positive experiences with that. Certainly there's been some, but nothing really major for us, thank goodness. So my heart is here in this legislation and hope we can figure out a way to make this work. Ms. Casey, on the idea of the amendment in the purpose had said, hoping to the workforce development by addressing the current shortage of wildlife firefighters. So I kind of want to understand, is there a shortage? To what degree? Because my secondary question goes along with that, if that's okay, Chair, for me to just kind of integrate the two questions.
Yes, one question would be great, if you could just make it into
Okay.
one. Yep.
So the demand, but in Section 5, we talk about under the hiring program, the state forester fire warden may appoint a person without competition. I think my concern would be if there's those in the community that are competing typically for positions to be filled, I wouldn't want to see somebody lose out because we have to have a preference for somebody who might have been incarcerated, but I do want the incarcerated person to have a level playing field. So if you could just help me to understand that.
Jovan Jackson, for the record, we could definitely look at an amendment for that. These folks that are incarcerated, they are very qualified. They have fought maybe multiple fire seasons. They go out every day. So they should be able to compete with any other applicant. So we could definitely look at an amendment in removing that because these folks are just as qualified or maybe more qualified than an average person. And then that is one reason, and Jovan Jackson for the record, and that is one reason why I brought up this bill because there is shortages due to legislation that was passed, with NDF. But I will defer that to.
Thank you. And I apologize earlier, Chair, through you to the Assembly member. Okay, Casey for the record. There is a shortage. With the passage of AB 236, NDF historically ran 10 conservation camps in conjunction with the Department of Corrections, 2 female camps, 8 male camps around the state. We had 74 crew supervisors running 10-person inmate crews across the state. So at the peak, we provided, and it gets a little complicated, but a wildland firefighting crew is 2 of those squads put together, so 20 people, that's the minimum requirement at the national level. We had like 30 of those crews across the state. Today, I'm lucky if I can field 2 to 4 because 1, the inmate shortages, so I now run out of 3 camps mainly and 1 partially. And also, I have such high turnover that I actually don't have qualified crew bosses at the level to actually take them out. So we are working on that feverishly to get them qualified. there are other firefighters out there, so that it's not as though when the bell dings, they're not going to come. They're just going to come potentially from other states to help us out when we need help in the state. So I concur that there is a shortage in the state of Nevada. We've been working, part of our transition when we transitioned out of those camps. And I would like to state for the record too that NDF has really loved working in these camps with the Department of Corrections. It has been a meaningful work environment for us and our crew bosses. We never thought crew bosses would have a 20-year career crew bossing. We thought that would be a stepping stone into the division, and they love doing this kind of work. So this has been a hard transition for the division, transitioning out of working in those camps. We now have transitioned some of our positions into fire fuels crews. They're staffed by NDF personnel every day doing, mitigation work and then fighting fires. So, and we have 3 of those across the state to make up for the 30 that we had, plus the 4 or so we could provide out of the camp. So we are short, and so we would look forward to seeing any of those. I too had the concern about non-competitive hiring. Everyone will tell you, even internal candidates get mad at me because I'm always into competitive hiring. So I just firmly believe that that's something we should always do. But I do believe that there are opportunities like the Phoenix crew that they've built in Arizona that could be a great opportunity for us to offer them jobs that aren't as competitive, that actually could get them time in a work environment to prove they would get evaluations, they would be showing that they are doing this work and doing a good job like they do in the prison system, but now outside, that would help them in their pathway to getting jobs, say at local government, if an EMT is where they wanted to go.
Thank you so much. Our next question is from Assemblymember Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To clarify one, this bill is to get the inmates basically streamlined for a position with NDF and NDF only, correct?
Yes, to allow them by law to be able to have that process where they're hired by NDF.
So could we just...
Sylvan Jackson, for the record.
I'm sorry, can I just follow on clarify?
No, we'll go on. You didn't request a follow-up.
Well, he didn't.
The next question will be from Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair, for the second question. So I get the sense from my colleagues and from myself, we support this idea, right? And I think we're appreciative of NDF hiring folks, and I think I agree we're trying to just dial in. So my question just is, this bill is entirely aimed at NDF. NDF is already hiring folks. NDF doesn't even have an EMT requirement to waive. It sounds like the holdup is in local hiring. So my question is just, how does this bill achieve the goals when it sounds like the goals are already being achieved? Is there maybe an amendment that can help us get closer to those goals?
Jovan Jackson, for the record. I would say the bill is still is important because it removes any bias or subjective views from hiring. Like, yes, administratively, NDF allows folks to hire formerly incarcerated people, but this will, remove any bias or any subjective views about hiring with someone with a record. So it creates more protection to those individuals who served as an inmate wildlife firefighter to be hired by NDF when they're released. But yes, I would definitely be excited to look at other options, even like a workforce or a pipeline workforce program to get more NDF firefighters. Jovan Jackson, for the record.
Thank you. And our final question is from Assemblymember Gonzalez.
Thank you so much. So I was just wondering on the amendment, it specifically states that inmates who have actively served wildfires. I guess my question is just clarifying, is that just for them, or are there other inmates who may not have served but can still qualify to work? Thank you.
Jovan Jackson, for the record. So yes, not every inmate who participates in NDF becomes a wildlife firefighter. The bill does specify that, it's for these individuals because they do have the qualification and the experiences. So it is focused around them, but it's not limiting NDF to hire those inmates who didn't fight on a fire.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. So starting here in Carson City, if there's anyone that would like to provide testimony in support of Assembly Bill 321, please come forward. Again, I ask that you state your name and spell it for the record, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. My name is Wesley Harper. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. We support this bill. We believe that it is helpful in reducing recidivism, which is good for the state and therefore good for our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair and committee members. Nick Shepak, NICKSHEPACK, Nevada State Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center. I'll be brief. I think we can all agree that the intent of the bill is fantastic. We want to reduce recidivism. We have a firefighter shortage. Clearly, I think we need to massage the language a little bit, but I think we can absolutely get there to address these issues, reduce recidivism, and protect our wildlands and our homes.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the Assembly Judiciary. Paloma Guerrero, PALOMAGUERRERO, Clark County Public Defender's Office. The number one factor that reduces recidivism is having a job. This bill is a smart on crime measure that's going to help people get back on their feet. It's going to help people support their own families, and it's going to help people stay out of the criminal system. Thank you.
Not seeing anyone else approach here in Carson City. Las Vegas, would you like to testify in support?
Yes, thank you. Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R, a member Nevada Prison Education Project and a professor at UNLV involved in that project. Thank you, Chairs Miller, Marzola, and members of the committee for hearing this bill. And thank you to Assembly Member Jackson for bringing it forward. The Nevada Prison Education Project is an independent organization that includes teachers from colleges and universities in the Nevada system of higher education, community groups, nonprofits, justice-impacted students, and the Nevada Department of Corrections. We all work together to improve and expand prison education in our state and hopefully provide this second chance pathway for justice-impacted persons to re-enter the workforce and have a true second chance. The portion of this bill that remains the wildlife and wildland firefighters provision is an active provision designed to remove the stigma that prevents so many reformed, formerly justice-impacted persons who've served their time and made amends to enter the workforce, which is so necessary and one of the largest impediments we also face for people who've earned degrees through our program. Thank you for your support for AB 321, and thank you to all the people who are going to work on amending the bill to make sure that it fulfills its very positive intentions. Thank you.
For the record, my name is Kim Renee, K-I-M-R-E-N-E-E. I strongly support this AB 321. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else there in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone else. Is there no one else approaching in Las Vegas? Okay, I'll take that as a no. Broadcasting, please open the lines.
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Tanya Brown, T-O-N-J-A, B-R-O-W-N, Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the Judiciary. We would like to thank the sponsors for this bill. This is a fantastic bill that is long overdue. Excuse me. I want to say that if the inmates have the training and the expertise in this field, they should not be precluded from seeking employment because of their felony conviction. They served their time, they've paid their debt to society, and they deserve a second chance. This is just a thought that if they have served their time and they have been released and they have sought employment and they are working in the wildlife fires, and that after 5 years of employment, they can apply for employment with local government agencies. We strongly support AB 321. Have a good day. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the committee. My name is Denise Heredia, Heredia, Associate Director of Return Strong, Nevada. We strongly support AB 321, and we thank the bill sponsors for bringing it. This bill ensures that people who have served their time and have already done this work aren't unfairly locked out of work opportunities when they return to our communities. During the recent wildfires in Los Angeles, incarcerated firefighters played a vital role in containing the flames and protecting these communities. These individuals work tirelessly side by side with professional crews facing the same dangers and demonstrating the same courage, but despite their proven skills and dedication, most will be denied the chance to become full-time firefighters upon release simply because of their record. AB 321 recognizes that rehabilitation should lead to opportunities and gives qualified individuals a fair chance to continue the work they have already done. Second chances aren't just about individuals proving that they deserve them, they require a society willing to recognize their worth. Thank you.
Hello, greetings, Honorable Chair and the committee. My name is Jagada Chambers, Jagadachambeers. I'm calling in strong support of the legislation. I'm definitely overjoyed at even the dialogue around it. The key component I want to bring in is the character of a person who would go and engage in firefighting during their incarceration. Oftentimes, people during their incarceration couldn't imagine losing a finger or dying during that incarceration. So there's a character that must be revealed in the person that even does it. And I think that this will be an opportunity for folks who, during their incarceration, could see it as an opportunity to engage when you know that there's a pathway to employment in this region when you're released. I'll say that much. Thank you all for your time.
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the committee. My name is Tara Webster, calling on behalf of the Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada. The carceral system has historically benefited from the labor of incarcerated individuals, particularly in wildlife response efforts. These individuals are considered physically and mentally fit for the job and receive the same training as other wildlife firefighters, which includes both classroom instruction and hands-on field experience. The Progressive Leadership Alliance of Nevada advocates for recognizing the contributions made by these inmates for the benefit of our state, and we strongly support the enactment of Assembly Bill 321 into law, which would provide these individuals with opportunities to pursue meaningful and rewarding careers after they've served their time. Thank you.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify in support at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then I will open it up for neutral testimony, starting here in Carson City.
Good morning, Madam Chair. For the record, Ryan Beeman representing the professional firefighters in Nevada. I apologize coming up in neutral. We have not had a chance to speak to the bill sponsor about this legislation. Our concern is we're not sure if we currently represent the state firefighters who do represent the forestry. Battleborn, they do have a collective bargaining agreement with the state, and we're not sure the impact that it might be if that's the people that are trying to come into that membership, because there is in their collective bargaining agreement an open competitive type process that's outlined in our collective bargaining agreement. So we're not sure if this is where they're trying to go into our members that we represent there. So thank you.
Mr. Beeman, would you be willing to take a question? Okay, so I do understand, obviously, the concern and the responsibility to protect the collective bargaining agreement. But I just wanted to ask you a question about the training in general or the possibility of hiring in general. So can you explain what, for someone that maybe someone has been part of this wildlife fire program while they were incarcerated and now they are released? And again, best case scenario, because I know that my assumption was correct when I asked Department of Corrections, and they do say that these are individuals that, just as Assemblymember Jackson stated, that are responsible, have proven themselves, who are basically left in the forest on their own, and they don't walk away, they don't leave. So again, we know they're responsible individuals. So now they've completed their time, they're now released. What keeps them from being hired from like a municipal firefighter, as a municipal firefighter?
Madam Chair, for the record, Ryan Beeman representing the professional firefighters in Nevada. Really, for the municipalities, it will probably come down to the EMS certifications. By law, you can't have a felony to have an EMS certification. So.
Okay, thank you. One further question. Is that EMS certification through the fire department or through another municipality?
For the record, Ryan Beeman representing the professional firefighters. It's through your health district, so it's NRS 450B is usually where that comes from in statute.
Okay, thank you so much. Anyone else for neutral testimony?
Good morning, Chair Miller and members of the committee. My name is Don Southworth, DON-SOUTHWORTH. I'm the Chief of Offender Management with the Nevada Department of Corrections. The Department of Corrections is neutral on this bill, but I do want to point out that the screening process, as Assemblymember Jackson pointed out, is very strict. Only minimum custody and below offenders are selected and approved to become NDF firefighters as an offender. These are offenders that are allowed to go out without DOC representation to supervise them. It's also part of our department's mission to ensure that releasing offenders are prepared and equipped to obtain meaningful employment. But with that, I'll take any questions if you have any, Chair Miller.
Sure. About how many individuals, since you've been in this position, have you seen go through this program?
Thank you, Chair. Don Southworth for the record. We currently have a little bit over 200 offenders assigned to NDF, and that number is actually significantly down than what it was historically before AB 236 was passed. I think 2018 we had somewhere in the ballpark of 800 plus offenders assigned.
800 plus overall historically, or just since you've been there?
2018, Don Southworth for the record, I apologize.
When you're the only one speaking, it's okay.
Assigned in 2018, we had over 800 offenders assigned to work with Department of Forestry. Currently, we have a little over 200 assigned to work with them.
Okay. Thank you so much. I do have one more question. You mentioned a term, you said low offender. Was that the term you used?
Yes, Madam Chair. Low risk. These are minimum custody and below offenders.
Below what?
So minimum custody or community trustee. So these represent the lowest risk to cause any kind of problems, to misbehave, to escape, all of those kinds of things.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Now, it was just brought to my attention that I had not provided opposition testimony. So we are going to switch to opposition testimony and then come back to neutral. So anyone here in Carson City that would like to oppose Assembly Bill 321? Is there anyone in Las Vegas that would like to oppose 321? Broadcasting, will you open the lines for opposition testimony?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. Then we will go ahead and return to neutral testimony here in Carson City. Is there anyone else wishing to testify in neutral? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 321, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you so much. Then I will go ahead and welcome the bill presenters back up for any final remarks.
Javon Jackson, for the record. I want to state that this bill is very important. It's important. Just because NDF allows a formerly incarcerated to be hired doesn't mean it's guaranteed. They still can deny folks case by case. I really feel that these individuals who ultimately risk their lives for $1 an hour should be able to automatically qualify to be hired by NDF, and that there should be no boundaries. So this bill is important.
Good morning, Sean Griffin again. I just want to say that the reason I do this work is to provide people with some hope. When you get out, you think the world might be working for you again, and you might have a chance. You might be able to start your life over. That's what I tell people every week when I go into the prison. I think this bill will help them do that, and I want your support, and I know they do too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 321. Next, I will open up the hearing for Assembly Bill 369. It revises provisions governing certain orders for protection against domestic violence. Assembly member, I'll give you a few moments to get settled in, and then whenever you are ready, please proceed.
Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the Assembly Committee on Judiciary. My name is Shay Backus, and I have the pleasure of representing the constituents of Assembly District 37. Thank you for the opportunity to present Assembly Bill 369. Assembly Bill 369 is a bill that helps ensure the protection of Native people. It follows from my work in the last legislative session to address missing and murdered Indigenous persons crisis. Last session, through AB 125, we ensured that when Indigenous persons go missing, that state police could take a report and capture it into the National Crime Information Center. This was important as many tribes do not have tribal police or have access to the National Crime Information Center. For those tribes that rely upon the federal government for law enforcement, there are also delays in the arrival of a BIA officer. And this may become more critical with some of our federal shutdowns as our BIA office in Elko is actually being considered for closure. Additionally, AB 125 created a tribal liaison for the Department of Public Safety. Nevada law recognizes that our Indian tribes within our state possess the power of self-government to enact their own laws, regulations, and ordinances, and enforcing them by their own tribal courts in accordance with their rules of procedure. According to an article published in the American Constitution Society for Law and Policy, American Indian women residing on Indian reservations suffer domestic violence and physical assault at rates far exceeding women of other ethnicities and locations. American Indian women experience physical assaults at a rate of 50% higher than the next most victimized demographic. In all, 39% of American Indian women report being victims of domestic violence. Missing Indigenous persons are not in a silo in Indian country. Last session, I gave the example of Miss Anna Scott, who is a member of the Pyramid Lake Indian Reservation, whose body was discovered on February 3rd, 2022 in the trunk of a car set on fire on I-580 between Reno and Carson. It has now been over 3 years, and her murder actually remains unresolved. After last session, I attended the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women Conference coordinated by the women of the Niue Waipipian, and I apologize to the Paiute elders for mispronouncing that group, with about 200 other individuals. From small group discussions, a MMIW task force was discussed to continue the conversations to ensure families would have access to more resources, accurate information, and a seamless process when loved ones go missing. The task force includes representatives from federal, state, and tribal communities. And this is purely a volunteer task force. People volunteer their time to meet each month to have these discussions. Through the conference and the task force, one of the issues that continued to be a barrier for victims of domestic violence is the enforcement of tribal court protection orders. So, hence, obviously, Assembly Bill 369. But during the 71st session of the Nevada Legislature, full faith and credit laws were first implemented in Nevada to recognize protection orders from other jurisdictions, including another state, territory, or Indian tribe, specifically codified into law as NRS 33.085. To cover some of the terms in this law, full faith and credit means jurisdictions must honor and enforce civil and criminal protection orders by other states, tribes, and territories. Protection orders is meant as any injunction, restraining order, or court order, civil or criminal, issued to prevent violence, threatening acts, or harassment. While these efforts have been crucial to Indigenous peoples' protection, victim advocates continue to report challenges with the enforcement of tribal temporary protection orders by local law enforcement. AB 369 has been introduced in an attempt to make sure that tribal restraining orders are being enforced outside of the tribal communities. I mean, as most of these individuals residing within tribal communities are likely to shop or even work outside of the tribal boundaries. In order for a TPO to be enforced, the order must first be recognized as valid. This AB 369 expands the evidence an officer may use to determine a valid protection order on its face to include digital evidence. This is so enforcement of protection orders is not reliant on a physical copy of the order being present. This also allows officers to consider statements made by the adverse party of the restraining order to count as evidence. Another significant challenge in enforcing protection orders is that the respondent must be given sufficient notice before the order can be enforced. This means a valid protection order will not be enforced unless there is obviously proof of the order being served. So this bill adds additional provisions that would allow law enforcement to actually serve the temporary protection order if someone challenges that they were never served. I'm working with stakeholders to kind of clean that up a little, as I see that there could be some problems with it. But the key is really to make sure that these restraining orders are being enforced outside of just the tribal boundaries. So with this, I'll walk the committee through the bill. Section 1, subsection 4A, this affirms that a digital copy of the protection order can be provided as evidence to an officer. Subsection 4D allows any statement by a person against whom the order is being enforced to be relied upon by officers when they are enforcing an order for protection against domestic violence. Subsection 5 of Section 1 introduces a process for law enforcement officers to follow when otherwise valid order for protection cannot be enforced because the respondent has not been notified. And it details what the process would be. One, it would require officers to verbally inform the respondent that there is this order in place to provide notice. It also does provide in this next section that the order should be provided to the respondent, and 3, allow the respondent a reasonable period of time to comply with the order. This is crucial to the protection of Indigenous people as it introduces an official channel for valid orders to be enforced. Then subsection 1 of Section 1 requires officers to document any actions taken regarding the service of the temporary restraining order. Subsection 7 and subsection 8 of Section 1 just make confirming changes. AB 369 is a critical step toward ensuring that Indigenous peoples, particularly those affected by the MMIW crisis, are afforded the fullest extent of protection under Nevada law. The challenges faced by victim advocates and law enforcement in enforcing these tribal protection orders must be addressed so that victims are not left vulnerable due to procedural gaps. This bill will reaffirm the full faith and credit given under NRS 33.085. By modernizing enforcement procedures, expanding acceptable forms of evidence, and introducing a structured process for notification, this bill closes loopholes that have allowed abusers to evade protective orders. AB 369 is about more than legal reform. It is about justice, safety, and recognizing the sovereignty of tribal courts. I urge your support for Assembly Bill 369 so that Nevada can take meaningful action in protecting Native communities and ensuring that all protection orders, regardless of jurisdiction, are honored and enforced. I thank you for your time this morning, and I welcome any questions that this committee may have.
Okay, thank you. We will begin with a question from Assemblywoman Hardy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your work on this. I agree. Protection orders should be enforced and followed no matter where the individual is. And I just had a question on 5A, and this might be something you're working on as far as notice. Is verbal notice, is that a form of service like in other, other areas of document service? I just wasn't sure about verbal notice. So could you just talk about that a little?
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Hardy, for the question. Shay Backus for the record. And that was something that we were talking about, because one thing, just taking a step back, is obviously an order usually is valid when it has been served. In this situation, if the respondent says, hey, I was never served with the order, it would raise concerns to the law enforcement officer that the order wouldn't be valid under the earlier provision. So this allows that opportunity for them to place the respondent on notice. And, and I look now, I'm questioning, because when I was reading quickly 5B, because 5A, B, and C all are required because there's an and after B. It says make a reasonable effort to serve the order upon the respondent. And at first, when I kind of glanced at that, I thought it was going to be as simple as serving that order. But if there's a digital copy, I mean, how could that be effectuated? It could be, or if the victim is providing it. But I think the key there is the officer, the third part also would be asking the person to comply with the order, and hopefully then they could leave this situation. And I do believe most of our law enforcement is always skilled to de-escalate a situation and separate people. But this kind of just codifies it, but this is the provision that I'm willing to work with stakeholders on to make sure it's adequate, because service is also questionable whether it's appropriate even under the original jurisdiction. So thank you for your question. So in the full answer, actually, I did not answer your question because I wanted to explain it. Your question was, are there any other areas where service is effectuated with just an oral? I don't have any knowledge of any sort of service of any sort of order sufficient by like just oral notice.
Okay, thank you. That was the scenario I was envisioning, that the person says, well, I didn't get it. And then, so what are the steps we go through for service? And thank you.
So your question was answered? Yes. Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Nadeem.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the presentation. So my question is, the protection order is being made within the tribal area, it's by the tribal agency, right? So when that person goes out of the tribal area, who is responsible to take care of that order?
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Nadeem. Shay Backus for the record. So that's kind of what the issue is. And I was going to give you guys my 1-minute education on criminal jurisdiction in Indian country because I was impressed that I was able to get it down that quick last session. But it does get a little confusing because there could be multiple types of protection orders that get entered when there is a threat of domestic violence in tribal communities, and also depends like who the victim is and who the perpetrator is. But in this situation, the area, even though the changes may be a little broader that we're looking at to narrow, the reality is the tribal court orders. So number one is not every tribe, just so that everyone understands, in our state, our tribal communities, not every tribal community actually has their own tribal police force, and not every community has their own tribal court. So for those communities that actually do have their own tribal court, the order would be issued by the tribal court. And it's kind of like analogous to this, is if you had an order entered in another state and you wanted that enforced in Nevada, there's different procedures that take place. But when we're looking at domestic violence orders, those are obviously intended to protect individuals from potential harm. And so the tribal court order would be wanting to be enforced in like the state of Nevada, which obviously tribes are located in the state, but outside of the tribal boundaries. And so that's where the full faith and credit lies, because a lot of our tribal communities don't offer like Walmarts actually one of our tribal communities does have a Walmart located in it, but like going to the grocery store or something like that may not be within our tribal community boundaries. And obviously are outside of the community. And so it's for that protection to extend past the community. And I hope I answered your question.
Assemblymember, would you like to provide your 1 minute? No, I think it's important for, just for everybody's knowledge to make sure that everyone has a full understanding. So please, if you'd like to give, if you don't want to, okay. Oh, it was written. Okay, here we go.
Yes, I mean, it's very complex, but I just cut and pasted it from AB 125. But so basically, first and most importantly, we went over Nevada law recognizing our tribes' self-governance. And so when a crime occurs within a reservation boundary or tribal trust lands located partially or wholly within the state of Nevada, 3 inquiries must be made to determine who has jurisdiction. Who is the offender, who is the victim, and what was the crime? If the offender is an Indian, the victim is Indian, the tribe has jurisdiction with the exception to all major crimes defined in 18 U.S.C. section 1153, which includes murder, kidnapping, assault resulting in serious bodily injury, robbery, and other crimes specifically listed therein. For these defined major crimes, federal jurisdiction exists. Jurisdiction is similar for crimes committed by an Indian against a non-Indian victim, with the exception of the crimes that are neither provided under the Major Crimes Act or the tribal laws. Then there can be federal jurisdiction that imposes enforcement of state laws as provided for under the Assimilative Crimes Act codified at 18 U.S.C. section 13. If the offender is non-Indian and the victim is Indian, then the tribe has jurisdiction over the non-Indian for domestic violence, dating violence, or violation of protective orders when the non-Indian defendant resides or is employed in Indian country or is a spouse or intimate partner of an Indian residing in Indian country. For all other crimes, then there is federal jurisdiction. If the offender is non-Indian and the victim is non-Indian, then the state would have jurisdiction.
Thank you for that, and we appreciate how geographically close. I mean, but this could all change based on a few blocks of just geographically where we were. Thank you for that. I don't see any additional member questions at this time, so I will go ahead and open it up for testimony. Anyone wishing to testify in support of Assembly Bill 369, starting here in Carson City?
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Norman, NORMAN, Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. This bill makes sense. We serve domestic violence victims all the time at our offices, and this makes sense from that perspective. I also had the privilege of being a legal aid attorney in Indian country when I first got out of law school. So I was on the Navajo Nation and Hopi Reservation for 4 years, and it makes sense from the perspective of upholding tribal sovereignty, recognizing the complexities of jurisdiction, and making sure that people are safe. And just for reference, the Navajo Nation is the size of Indiana, and every Navajo family shops off reservation, so that would mean New Mexico and Arizona. And so the need to have protection orders that go beyond the boundaries of the reservation is vital. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. My name is Wesley Harper. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. We are in support of this bill. It enables our law enforcement to provide an even greater level of public safety. Thank you for hearing. Message of support.
Not seeing anyone else here in Carson City, we will move down to Las Vegas for support testimony.
Good morning, Chair Miller and committee. Liz Ortenberger, Lizortenburger. I'm the CEO for SafeNest. We are in strong support of this bill. We know that within our female population of victims, the time that they are murdered is when they are getting ready to leave or within the 12 months after they have left. One of the scariest times for the over 11,000 victims we serve every year is the dark period when a TPO has been issued, but an abusive partner evades service. This bill corrects that on the tribal lands and gives a much larger berth for law enforcement to do what is right, and so that we can bring down domestic violence homicides with our tribal land sisters. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else there in Las Vegas that would like to testify? Okay, thank you. Not seeing anyone else. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 369, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Serena Evans, Serena Evans, and I'm the Policy Director for the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. We thank Assemblymember Baucus for always prioritizing the safety of our tribal communities, as they are often some of our most marginalized victim survivors here in Nevada. And we need to ensure that they are safe wherever they go and that their protection orders can protect them. So we are in strong support of this legislation. Thank you.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify in support at this time.
Thank you so much. Then I will open it up for testimony in opposition. Anyone wishing to oppose Assembly Bill 369? Not seeing anyone here in Carson. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 369, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to testify in opposition at this time.
Thank you so much. Then I will open it up for neutral testimony. Is there anyone wishing to testify in neutral? Not seeing anyone here in Carson City or Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 369, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. There are no callers wishing to testify in neutral at this time.
Thank you. Then with that, I will welcome the Assemblywoman back up for any final remarks. Okay, thank you so much. Then I will close the hearing for Assembly Bill 369. With that, I will open it up for public comment. We can begin public comment here in Carson City. Is there anyone wishing to make public comment? Not seeing any. We will go to Las Vegas. Please remember to state your name and please keep your and spell it, and please keep your comments to 2 minutes. Thank you.
Doug Unger, D-O-U-G-U-N-G-E-R, UNLV professor and a member of the Nevada Prison Education Project. I'd like to thank the committee for the hearing on AB 321 today, but I'd like to go back and ask members of this committee to look at the provisions of the bill that were amended out and the spirit of trying to give second chances.
Mr. Unger,
we face.
Mr.
Yes.
Unger, according to the rules of the committee, public comment is not about speaking on bills that had already been heard during the meeting.
May I generally just ask that
Generally.
members of the committee look for second chances for convicted felons, especially recognizing that it's a problem and recognizing that we need to create pathways to provide second chances. It's the situation that we face with our degree recipients that and our Rebel Rebound program at UNLV, that it's the placement in the job workforce that's most difficult. Even when our program and it succeeds in reducing recidivism by anywhere between 43 and 73%. So any support that members of the committee can give for reviving second pathway chances for convicted felons would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe you're the only one in Las Vegas. So broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you. Then I will go ahead and close public comment. And we have finished our business for today, so I will adjourn and see you all at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning.